Question 1. So we need to change 365 centimetres into metres. Now cent means 100. Now metres are bigger than centimetres, so we're going to have fewer of those. So we divide by 100. 365 divided. Question 2. So here we have to make sure that we follow BIDMAS. We have to do these operations in the appropriate order, and multiplication comes before addition. So we first of all we do the 7 times 10, which is question 3. Well, we want to have y on its own. We want to make y the subject. So we need to undo this dividing by 4. How do we undo a dividing by 4? We multiply both sides by 4. So y equals 10.5 times 4, which is 42. And of course we could just check this. 42 divided by 4 does indeed equal 10.5. Question 4. Write one of these numbers in each box to make a correct calculation. Well, minus 9 add 2 equals minus 7. Just think about the number line. If you're on minus 9 and then you add 2, you're moving 2 to the right. That takes you to minus 7. Question 5. So the rule to continue this sequence is multiply the previous term by 2 and then add 1, work out the 5th term. So we've got to work out the next term. So we take our 23, we multiply this by 2, which gives us 46, and then we add 1 to give us 47. Question 6. So we've got 5 straight rods, all with these different lengths. We're told that the total length of the 5 rods is L. Find a formula for L in terms of A. So what we're saying is when we add all of these together, the total length is L. So let's just add them together. So we're going to take our A minus 1, we're going to add on A, we're going to add on another A, add on another A, and then add on A plus 4. So this is our formula before we simplify it. Because when we add them all together, that's what we're calling L. L is the total length. So now we just have to simplify this. So let's gather up all the A's. Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A's. So that's 5A. And then gathering up the normal numbers, we've got a minus. Question 7. So first of all, we've got to write down the coordinate of A. Well, that's 6 along the corridor, 2 down the stairs. So that's 6 minus 2. Now for part B1, plot the point with the coordinate 2, 9. So that's 2 to the right and 9 up. 2 to the right and 9 up. Now part B2, does point B lie on the straight line with equation 4x, y equals 4x plus 1? So if it does, then when we slot in the coordinates of B, when we slot in the x coordinate and we multiply it by 4 and add 1, the y value will be the y coordinate for B. So if I slot 2 into this equation, do I get 9? So let's try it out. So 4 lots of 2 is 8. Add on the 1, we do indeed get 9. So yes, point B does lie on that line. Part C, on the grid draw the line with equation x equals minus 2. So just take your time here. The temptation is just to draw in a line parallel to the x-axis along minus 2, but that would be wrong. We want the line where all the points on the line have an x value of minus 2. For example, minus 2, 0 or minus 2, 3. So if we were plotting these points here, we go 2 to the left and 0 up, 2 to the left and 3 up, and so on. So all the points on this line here have an x coordinate. Question 8. The length of a rectangle is twice as long as the width of a rectangle and the area is 32. Draw the rectangle. So we've got to think of two numbers that multiply together make 32. One of which is twice as big as the other, because how do you work out an area? It is base times height. So what two numbers multiply together to make 32 where one of them is twice as big? Well, that's going to be 8 times 4, or 4 times 8. So there we go. We've got the length being twice as long as the width. Question 9. So we're given all these facts and we need to see what mistake Jackie made, but it takes a while to read through this and get to grips with it. But bottom line, what we're saying is, when Jackie's saying that when we divide by 5, we get an answer which is half the size of when we divide by 10. But when you divide by 5, you're actually going to get an answer which is twice as big. So what Jackie should have done, rather than right at the end dividing by 2, she should have multiplied by 2. Giving her, so she should have got an answer of 696. So 348 times by 2 would have given her the correct answer. So what mistake did Jackie make in her method? Jackie should have multiplied by 2, not divided by 2. Question 10. So we're trying to see who is most consistent. So in order to do that, you really want to look at the range of results. So really compare the biggest with the smallest. Now with Jake's range is 12 being the biggest, take away 8, which is 4. whereas Sarah's range is 14 take away 2, which is 12. So Sarah's all over the place with her scores, sometimes really low, sometimes very high, whereas Jake is more consistent, sort of in the middle. So Jake is more consistent because he has a smaller range of scores. Now in part B, where Jake is saying that his modal score was 6 because 6 occurs most often in the diagram, well, he's wrong, but he's along the right lines. What Jake's done, he's spotted. Question 11. So there are 30 children in a nursery school. 1 adult is needed for every 8 children. So if we've got 3 adults, then they can look after 3 8 24 children. So obviously we need more than 3 adults because we've got 30 children in the school, and that would be only 24. Now 4 adults, 4 times 8 are 32, so 4 adults can look after 32 children. So we need 4 adults. Now for part B, 2 more children join the nursery. Does this mean we need more adults? Well, it doesn't, because as we said up here, 4 adults can look after 32 children. We've got 4 adults. If 2 more children join the school, we've now got 32 children, which is exactly the number that 4 adults are allowed to look after. So the answer is no, because 4 adults can supervise up to 32 children. Question 12. So we need to complete this two-way table. So let's pop all of this information into the table to start with. So we've got 45 rabbits in total. So that goes here. 30 of the rabbits are male. So the total of male rabbits is 30. 8 of the female rabbits are short hair. So short hair female is here. That's that 8. Then 12 of the rabbits with long hair are male. So we've got 12 long hair males here. Now, once we've got these numbers in, we can fill in the missing numbers just by adding or subtracting. So for this number must be 18, because 12 add 18 equals 30. So I worked that out by doing 30 take away 12. So once I know that that's 18, this number over here must be 26, because that's 18 add 8 equals 26. Once I've got the 26, this must be 19, because 19 add 26 is 45. I did 45 minus 26 rather, to get the 19. And then finally I can fill in this one, because 12 add 7 equals 19. So I did 19 take away 12 to get my 7. Now, one of Emma's rabbits is chosen at random. Write down the probability that this rabbit is a female with short hair. So whenever we're asked to give a probability, it's always easiest to do it by way of a fraction. So how many rabbits are female with short hair? Well, that's 8. 8 female short hair, and that's 8 out of a total of 45 rabbits. 8 out of 45. So, question 13. So we're given that the total surface area of a cube is 294. So think about a cube, like a dice, and the surface area is as if you were covering it with wrapping paper. So covering each of the sides, the total surface area is this. So how many sides does a cube have? Well, it has 6. So what is the area of each of these 6 sides? Well, we're going to do 294 divided by 6. Giving me 49. And then so that is the area of one of the squares, one of the faces. So remember, the area of a square is base times height. So what number times itself gives me 49? Well, that is 7. So I know the length of each side of my cube is 7. So now that I know that, I can work out the volume, because to work out the volume, so we've got to work out which of these is closer to 1. So we're going to have to do 7 divided by 5 and 5 divided by 7 and see which is closer to 1. So let's start off with 7 divided by 5. So the 7 goes under the bus shelter and we're dividing it by 5. So 5s into 7 is 1 carry 2, 1 remainder 2. Then 5s into 20 is 4, so that's 1.4. And obviously 1.4 is 0.4 away from 1. Moving on, we're now going to do 5 divided by 7. So the 5 goes inside the bus shelter. So 7s into 5 doesn't go, so that's 0. Carry the 5. 7s into 50 is 7 carry 1. 7s into 10 is 1 carry 3, and so on. So that's close enough for us to see which is going to be closer to 1. Now this is just a little bit less than. So the ratio of buttons red, yellow to orange is 7 to 4 to 9. Now how many buttons have we got in total? Well, 7 add 4 add 9 is 20. So the number of ones which are orange are 9 out of 20. And we can write this as a fraction, 9 over 20. Now to write it as a percentage, we need it to be out of 100. So I need it to be something over 100. How do I apportion up? How do I make 20 become 100? I multiply by 5. That's going to be the equivalent fraction. So if I'm multiplying the bottom number by 5, I've got to multiply the top number by 5 as well. 9 5s are 45. So 9 over 20 and 45 over 100 are equivalent fractions. Now 45 out of 100 is 45%, because that's what percent means. It means out of 100. So our answer is 45%. Question 16. So for this estimate, we have rounded the 35 true number of t-shirts up to 40. So we've rounded that up. And we've also rounded up the price from £5.80 to 6. So both of our estimates are bigger than the real numbers themselves, the actual numbers. So once we multiply them together, this estimate is bound to be on the high side. So that's why her calculation shows the actual cost will be less than 240. Both 40 and 6 are overestimates. For part B, we've got to work out the actual cost of buying 35 t-shirts. Now, because we're buying more than 30, we get 10% off the total cost. So we need to find out what price we're going to be paying. So 10% of £5.80 is 0.58. Excuse me. To work out 10%, we just divide by 10. So effectively, the decimal point is shifted, but of course, it's all the numbers shifting the other way. So full price would be £5.80. Question 17. We need to work out the probability that the total score is an odd number. So how do we get an odd number when we add two numbers together? Well, the ways we can get an odd number when we add them together is we either get an odd then an even, because that will give us an odd number, or we get an even and then an odd. Those are the two possible ways of ending up with an odd number when you add them together, because an odd plus an odd is an even, and an even plus an even is an even. So let's just first of all consider this possibility, an odd followed by an even. Now, what's the chances of taking an odd out of box A? Well, that's 2 out of 3. 2 of these are odd. And what's the chances of taking an odd out of, an even out of box 2? Well, that's 1 out of 3, the 2. So question 18. So Harry, Regan and Keelan share 450 in the ratio 2 to 5 to 3. Well, that's 10 shares in total, 2 plus 5 plus 3 being 10. So how much is each share going to be? Well, we can divide our 450 by 10, which is £45 each. How much money does Keelan get? Well, we get £45 for every share we've got. Keelan has got 3 shares, so we need 3 lots of 45, which is £135. Question 19. So these ingredients make 16 flapjacks. Now we want to make 24 flapjacks. Now 24 is 16 plus 8. So that's 1 lot of all these ingredients plus a half a lot, because 8 is half of 16. So there's 1.5 lots in total. So this is obviously how much we need for 16. As I said, this is a whole lot. So half a lot is going to be half of each of these ingredients. So this column here is how much we need for that extra 8 flapjacks. So let's halve each of these numbers. So 60, 70, 125 and 1. So this is 1 lot, this is half a lot. So let's add these 2 columns together to give us our 1.5 lots. So 120 add 60 is 180 and so on. So these are our final answers, 180, 210, 375 and 3. So just to clarify, this is the ingredients for 16 flapjacks. This is the ingredients for 8 flapjacks. So if we add these 2 together, question 20. So in order for us to find approximations, we start off by rounding each of these to 1 significant figure. And by that we mean we only have 1 digit which is non-zero in each of these 3 numbers. So 595 becomes 600, 4.08 becomes 4, and 5.3 becomes 5. Now this is a lot easier to work with. So 600 divided by 4 squared plus 5. So that actually is 4 4s is 16, 16 add 5 is 21, so 600 divided by 21. Now I could actually work that out, that would be fine, but I'm only trying to get a ballpark figure. So I'm going to, rather than spend time working out 600 divided by 21, I'm going to do 600 divided by 20, because that's so much easier. So I can divide both. Question 21. So to make this easier, I'm going to choose to multiply top and bottom by 100. So I'm going to multiply this first term by 100 on the numerator and the 0.01 by 100. Now that straight away just makes this an easier calculation, because on the bottom I'm left with 1, and when I'm dividing by 1 it's just basically the same answer as the numerator, the top bit. And on 0.06 times 100, move the 6 over 2 decimal places, I'm left with 6 times the second term. So I can just work this out. So 6 times 0.003 is 6 3s are 18, so that's going to be 0.0018. So my final answer as a normal number is 0.0018. Now, standard form answer, the first component has to be question 22. So to add fractions, we need to have a common denominator. 5 fours are 20, so 20 will be our common denominator. So how do I convert 2/5 into something over 20? What is the equivalent fraction? Well, 5 to 20 I need to multiply by 4. So I multiply the numerator, the top number, by 4 as well. 2 fours are 8. Moving on to the quarter, 4 fives are 20, so I'm multiplying by 5. Also multiply the numerator by 5. 1 times 5 is 5. So 8/20ths is an equivalent fraction to 2/5, and 5/20ths is an equivalent fraction to a quarter. So now that I have a common denominator, I can just add the fractions together, and be careful, leave the denominator as 20. 8 plus 5 is 13, so that's 13 over 20. Now part B, when I have a minus in the power, I need to remember that I need to flip the number over. So really, to sort of flip it over, it's best to think of it as a fraction to start with. So think of 2 as being 2 over 1. So I've got 2 over 1 to the power of minus 3. So to sort out the minus, I flip the fraction over. So that becomes 1 over 2. So the minus is now gone. I'm now just left with to the power of 3. I then have to cube the top number and cube the bottom number. 1 cubed is 1 times 1 times 1, which is 1. And 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So 1 over 8. Question 23, write 36 as a product of its prime factors. So this is when we do the number tree. So break the 36 down into two whole numbers that multiply together to 36. Doesn't matter which whole numbers you use. I've gone 6 and 6. You might have gone 12 and 3 or whatever. So is either 6 or either of the 6's prime? No, they aren't. So we can carry on breaking them down. 6 breaks down to 2 times 3. As it does a second time, 2 times 3. Now 2 and 3 are both prime numbers, so this is as far as we can go. So pop circles around them to indicate that you're sort of at the end of the process. So your question 24. When we have one of these questions like this, where we're going to have to construct and solve an equation, it's a good idea to make the smallest age X. So Kira is 7 years older than Jay. So Jay's the younger of those two. And Martha is twice as old as Kira. So Jay's going to be the youngest person. So let's make Jay be X years old. So Kira is 7 years older than Jay. So whatever Jay is, we add 7 to it. So Kira's age is going to be X plus 7. And then Martha is twice as old as Kira. Well, we've just said that Kira's age is X plus 7. So Martha's age is going to be 2 lots of this X plus 7, which, if we then do the claw, is 2X plus 14. So Jay's age is X. Kiara's age is X plus 7. And Martha's age is 2X plus 14. So we're then told that the sum of their 3 ages is 77. So X plus 7 plus 2X plus 14 has to be 77. So we've constructed an equation here which we now need to solve. So start off by simplifying the left hand side. X plus 2X is 4X. 7 plus 14 is 21. Take away 21 from both sides, we get 4x equaling 56. Divide by 4, we get x being 14. So Jay's age is 14, x is 14. Kiara's age is 14 add 7, which is 21. and then Martha's age is twice Chiara's age, which is 42. So the final ratio of their ages is 14 to 21 to 42. Question 25. So we need to show that angle ABF, A to B to F, so this angle that I've called X, is 70 degrees. So first things first, we can say that this angle here, angle AFB, is also 35 because vertically opposite angles are equal. Secondly, because ABCD is a parallelogram, this angle here, angle BAF, must also be 75 because opposite angles in a parallelogram are equal. So this is 75, this is 35, so this must be 70 because angles in a triangle total 180, and this plus this equal 180. X must be 70. Question 26. So we need to work out the area of the shaded bit, the area of the whole logo, divide one by the other and see if we get a third or not. So let's start off by working out the area of the total logo. So that's the whole thing. So the circle for that has a radius of 4 plus 3 plus 3, which is 10. So the area of that circle is going to be pi r squared, is going to be pi times 10 squared, which is 100 pi. Now to work out the area of the shaded area, I'm first of all going to work out the area as if the whole of the inner two circles were shaded. So when the circle has a radius of 7, and then take away from that the inner white area when the radius is 4. So that's going to be pi times 7 squared, take away pi times 4 squared, which is 49 pi, take away 16 pi, which is 33 pi. So the proportion shaded divided by the total logo is 33 pi over 100 pi. The pi's cancel, so that's 33 over 100. Now that's close to being a third. Remember that would be 33.3 recurring, but it's not exactly a third. So Daisy is not correct because 33 over 100 does not equal a third. Question 27. Work out an estimate for the mean of the weekly earnings. Now this is group data, so we don't actually know how much these people have earned. We know this first person has earned between 150 and 250 pounds in a week, but we don't know actually how much they've earned. So we've got to do an estimate. So let's just assume they earned exactly halfway between the two. So let's assume this person here earned exactly 200 pounds. So that's why this is an estimate, because we're making this assumption early on. So we need a column of midpoints. So halfway between 150 and 250 is 200, 250 and 350 is 300, and so on. So we get our 5 midpoints. So from then onwards we're going to assume that's exactly how much these people earned. So one person earned £200, 11 people earned 300, and so on. So how do we work out how much money that is in total? Well, we cross multiply. We do 1 times 200, 200, 11 times 300, 3,300, and so on. So we get these 5 subtotals here. If we then add those up, that gives us the total amount of money earned by the 20 people, which is £7,300 in the week. So to estimate the mean, we divide this by the number of people, which is 20. Be ever so careful not to divide by 5. That is a common error. We're dividing by 20 people. Now, if we then divide both of these by 10, we get 730 over 2, which is £365. Now, we've got this statement, the mean may not be the best average to use to represent this information. Well, that could be the case. The mean can get quite distorted if we've got outliers. So if we had somebody earning a huge amount or a real tiny amount, it might sort of have a real bearing on the outcome. So that's sometimes where we would use the median instead. So what we can say is the mean may not be the best average, as outliers can have a significant effect. Question 28. So we need to show that y, so the base of this rectangle, is 3. So first things first, let's work out the height of the rectangle. Now because it's a rectangle, this length here must equal this length here. So 2x plus 6 must equal 5x minus 9. They equal each other, so we can solve that equation to work out what x is. So get all the x's onto one side. Now it's easier, I think, to get them onto the side with the greatest number of x's to start with, which is the right hand side. So let's choose to undo this plus 2x by minusing 2x from both sides. That gives me 6 equaling 3x minus 9. So I've got all my x's on the right, so I want all my normal numbers on the left. So to undo this minus 9, I'm going to add 9 to both sides, giving me 15 equals 3x. To undo this timesing by 3, I divide by 3, so x equals 5. So with x being 5, I can substitute this into either of these two to work out the height of the rectangle. So substituting into this one, for example, 2 5s are 10, 10 and 6 is 16. So I know the height of this rectangle is 16. Now how do you work out an area of a rectangle? It's base times height, and we're told that the area is 48. So 48 equals my base, which is y, multiplied by the height, which I've just worked out to be 16. So y must be 3, because 3 times 16 is my 48. Question 29. So write down one thing that is wrong with this graph. Well, it should be a nice gentle curve. It should not be line segments. So it shouldn't be just, you shouldn't be getting your ruler out and joining all these points together. The graph should be a curve, not line segments. Question 30. So think about the three columns. We have an original price, a price change and a final price, and let's always just make the original price 100 just to allow us to think about the percentage change. Now we're told that the price is reduced by 30%, so we're going to take 30% off 100. 100 take away 30 is 70. So had the price been £100 to start with, it would end up being £70 after a £30 reduction. So what is our multiplier? How do we get from 100 to 70? We multiply by 0.7. Now if we're working the other way, if we're given the final price, the sell price, and we want to work out the original price, we need to do the opposite operation. So we don't multiply by 0.7, we divide by 0.7. So we need to do £2.80 divided by 0.7. Now it's quite hard to divide by a decimal, so why don't we choose to multiply top and bottom by 10? That gives us 28 over 7, which is much easier because 7 4s are 28. So our answer for the normal price of the book before the reduction would have been £4.